And welcome to Durham, New Hampshire, home of the University of New Hampshire Wildcats. Tonight, it is the venue for what's being called the first in the fall Republican presidential debate. Let's get started. We will cover a number of issues tonight, but first, a political question about the man who isn't here and will not even announce his candidacy for president until tomorrow. I'm talking, of course, about Senator Fred Thompson.
Maybe Senator Thompson will be known as the no-show for the presidential debates, but I'm proud to be sharing the stage with these guys because we're running for president, and we're delighted to be here, and I certainly appreciate getting this opportunity.
Well, I think that's a decision that Fred should make. Maybe we're up past his bedtime. But the point is, I think that...
Why the hurry? Why not take some more time off? Maybe January, February might be a better time to make a final decision about getting in this race.
I think Fred is a really, really good man. I think he's done a pretty good job of playing my part on Law and Order. I personally prefer the real thing.
Let's talk about illegal immigration.
This is a place where Mayor Giuliani and I just simply disagree. I think we should reduce federal funding to cities that call themselves sanctuary cities. I think saying, as he did, if you happen to be an undocumented alien, we want you in New York. We'll protect you in New York. I think that contributed to 3 million illegals in this country becoming 12 million illegals coming into this country.
I had a city that was the crime capital of America. I had to do something intelligent with them. I didn't have the luxury of, political rhetoric. I had the safety and security of the people in New York City on my shoulders. So what I did was, I said, and I think this is a sensible policy, if you are an illegal immigrant in New York City and a crime is committed against you, I want you to report that. Because lo and behold, the next time a crime is committed, it could be against a citizen or a legal immigrant. I said if you are a child in New York City, of which we had 40 to 50 to 60,000 illegal immigrant children, did it make sense to leave them on the streets? Well, the reality is my programs and policies led to a city that was the safest large city in the country. So they must have been sensible policies.
Mr. Mayor?
Senator Brownback, you're itching for a question. I have one for you. Your colleague, Senator Larry Craig of Idaho, is making it difficult for the Republican Party to claim to be the party of family values. Now, I know that as his friend, you may forgive him. Can you expect voters to do the same? And what do you say to Senator Craig's second thoughts about resigning?
Well, I'd say on his second thoughts, he's already pulled that trigger. And he's decided what he's going to do, and I think he needs to stick with that. And this is a terrible situation, the factual setting on it. What I think is good about it is that he's taking responsibility in the sense of resigning from office, and I think he ought to stick with that.
You know, that's one thing about our party. When our guys have problems like this, they leave. They leave the Senate or they leave the House. When the Democrats have problems like this, they often make them chairman of their respective committees.
New York City was, during the years that I was mayor, the safest large city in the United States. For example, in Boston, there was a 59% greater chance you'd be the victim of a crime than in New York City. One of the things that I accomplished as mayor of New York City was the impossible. New York City. New York City.
What do you think? Should there be a constitutional amendment banning gay marriage?
Absolutely not. We're the state of live free or die, and people should be able to marry the person they love.
Okay, so let's take that question from Heidi Turcotte. And there you hear the reaction from Granite Staters, the live free or die state, and pose this to Sam Brownback. Senator Brownback, should there be a constitutional amendment banning gay marriage, and if so, why?
Answer to that is yes. And the reason is this is a foundational institution. It is a foundational institution.
What I've indicated is very consistent with what the president is speaking about and what we're hearing from Iraq right now, and that is that the surge is apparently working. We're going to get a full report on that from General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker very soon. But the question of timetable will depend upon how successful the surge is. And the key is we don't start pulling back troops. We don't go into a support mode until we are successful with the surge.
Governor, the surge is working. The surge is working, sir.
That's just what
it is working. No, not apparently. It's working. It's working because we've got a great general. We've got a good strategy. Anbar province, things have improved. The Maliki government is not doing the things we want it to do. The police are not functioning the way we want them to do, but we are succeeding. And the great debate is not whether it's apparently working or not. The great debate is going to take place on the floor of the United States Senate the middle of this month. And it's going to be whether we set a date for withdrawal, which will be a date for surrender, or whether we will let this surge continue and succeed. And I can assure you, it's more than apparent. It is working. I have led. I was once the commanding officer of the largest squadron in the United States Navy. I didn't manage it. I led it.
Chris.
Mayor Giuliani, I'd like you, first of all, to respond to Senator McCain's comments that for all you did in New York on 9/11, it doesn't translate into national security experience. And also, last May, when I asked you why you have never been to Iraq, you said you would like to go by the end of this year. Are you, in fact, going to make that deadline?
I hope so. I hope we're able to go. The reality is that I'm not running on what I did on September 11. I'm running on the fact that I was mayor of the largest city in the country. When I came into office, I took over a city. I think it's the kind of experience that helps to prepare you for president, if there's any experience that does.
Congressman, whether or not we should have gone to Iraq is a discussion that historians can have, but we're there. We bought it because we broke it. We've got a responsibility to the honor of this country and to the honor of every man and woman who has served in Iraq and ever served in our military to not leave them with anything less than the honor that they deserve.
The American people didn't go in. A few people advising this administration, a small number of people called the neoconservatives, hijacked our foreign policy. They're responsible, not the American people. They're not responsible. We shouldn't punish them.
Congressman, we are one nation. We can't be divided. We have to be one nation under God. That means if we make a mistake, we make it as a single country, the United States of America, not the divided States of America.
When we make a mistake, it is the obligation of the people through their representatives to correct the mistake, not to continue the mistake.
And that's what we do on the floor of the Senate?
No, we've dug a hole for ourselves and we've dug a hole for our party. We're losing elections and we're going down next year if we don't change it. And it has all to do with foreign policy, and we have to wake up to this fact.
Even if we lose elections, we should not lose our honor, and that is more important than the Republican Party.
We have lost over 5,000 Americans killed in Afghanistan. We've lost over 5,000 Americans over there in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and plus the civilians killed. How many more do you want to lose? How long are you going to be there? How long? What do we have to pay to save face? That's all we're doing is saving face. It's time we came home.
Gentlemen, thank you. Wendell.
And my question is to Governor Romney, and that is, I've heard the other people up there articulate themselves a little bit better, but in your answer, I didn't hear how you would end it. I didn't hear an end game plan from you, and I would like a response on that. And also along those same lines, sir, a comment. I don't think you fully understand how offended my wife and I were, and probably the rest of the people who have sons, daughters, husbands, and wives serving in the war on terror, to compare your son's attempts to get you elected to my son's service in Iraq. I know you apologized a couple days later after a firestorm started, but it was wrong, sir, and you never should have said it.
Well, there is no comparison, of course. There's no question but that the honor that we have for men and women who serve in armed forces is a place of honor we will never forget, and nothing compares to it. This is a global conflict going on, radical, violent jihad. This effort ranges from Indonesia to Nigeria and through Europe and into America. And this battlefield of Iraq is a place where we have to be successful because the consequences of what will happen on this global battlefield are enormous. And that's why it's so important for us to be successful with the surge. And I agree, it looks successful. I certainly hope it's going to be fully successful.
Would you approve the use of torture if you felt it would prevent a terrorist attack?
Torture. I mean, we get into this debate all the time, and as to what exactly is the definition of torture. Yes, I would do certainly waterboard. I don't believe that is, quote, torture. I would do what is necessary to protect this country. That is the ultimate responsibility of the President of the United States. And yes, I would go to great lengths to keep this country safe.
Well, this reminds me of the period of time in New York when judges would release criminals into the street or threaten to do it. We can't close Guantanamo because nobody will take the people there.
If anything, we've been too liberal with the release of terrorists. And let me tell you, you got guys like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed who said that he planned the attack on 9/11. You've got Osama bin Laden's bodyguards. Those guys get taxpayer-paid for prayer rugs. They have prayer 5 times a day. They've all gained weight. The last time I looked at the menu, they had honey glazed chicken and rice pilaf on Friday. That's how we treat the terrorists. They've got health care that's better than most HMOs, and they've got something else that no Democrat politician in America has. They live in a place called Guantanamo, where not one person has ever been murdered, and there's not one politician, one Democrat politician in America that can say that about one of the prisons in his home district. We got to keep Guantanamo open.
It is my intention to lower taxes. I have, without any doubt, of all the people running for president, the strongest record of lowering taxes. I did it 23 times in a city that had a city. The reality is that I think someone's private life, someone's family life, is something that you all look into to determine how are they going to conduct themselves in public office. New York City. So obviously, any issues in my private life do not affect my public performance.
Thank you, sir.
We have to look at Iran really in a different way than just a Cold War analysis. It's a different situation. You want the other side to understand that there's a step beyond which you will not go. Ronald Reagan won the Cold War without firing a shot, but it was because he pointed like 1,000 missiles at Soviet cities.
Thank you, sir.
And he negotiated with them. I heard this confusion in the Democratic debate about when to talk and when not to talk. Well, he talked to them with 1,000 missiles pointed directly at their
Governor
cities.
Romney.
In January of 1981, Ronald Reagan came to power and raised his hand as President of the United States of America. By more than coincidence, the Iranian hostages returned on that same day. I would employ some of his methods.
Thank you, Senator McCain, and thank all of you. That is it for us tonight.
Something very interesting happened this evening. How many of you thought that this debate exceeded your expectations? You were happier with the Republican candidates? Raise your hands. These are 29 Republican primary voters. How many of you are disappointed? This is not a good night.